You know, when you think about the Olympics, you probably picture athletes, amazing feats, and gold medals, right? But what if the real competition isn't on the slopes or in the rink? What if it's about using the games as a giant catalyst for transforming an entire city? Today, we're diving into a fascinating story of ambition, a few setbacks, and a modern blueprint for what it really means to win the Olympics.
It's a simple question, but the answer is, well, it's pretty complex. Because the true victory, the real win, isn't about those 2 incredible weeks of competition. Nope. It's about what happens in the decades that follow. It's all about building a lasting legacy, and that is the grand prize we're going to explore.
So, let's set the scene. Our story centers on the city of Erzurum in Turkey. Now, this isn't just any city that decided to bid for the Winter Games. It's a place where winter sports are, baked into its very identity.
And we're not talking about a recent thing. Erzurum's history with skiing goes all the way back to World War I. That's when the military started training on its awesome Palandokan Mountains. And that military tradition, it eventually just spread to everyone, creating this deep local passion for winter sports. And all that passion wasn't just for show. They turned it into some serious real-world experience. I mean, look at this timeline. Erzurum has been on the international stage quite a bit, successfully hosting these major events. They've built up an impressive resume, a ton of experience that, fueled an even bigger dream. And that big dream? It was to host the 2026 Winter Olympics. But this is where the story takes a turn, where the city's incredible ambition slammed right into a pretty harsh reality check. Okay, so take a look at this table. This is where things get really interesting. See the difference in vision? Milan Cortina and Stockholm are. They came in with these broad plans tied to urban development, tourism, sustainability, the whole shebang. Erzurum's vision, on the other hand, was much more focused on just developing sports and national pride. Now look at that last column. The International Olympic Committee, the IOC, called it aligned, but not fully aligned. It seems like a tiny difference in wording, but trust me, it was crucial. And that little word was just the tip of the iceberg. The IOC's feedback was, well, it was blunt. As you can see, Erzurum had some major gaps. We're talking accommodation, transportation, but the really critical point here wasn't any single weakness. It was how they were all connected. They all stemmed from that vision, a vision that just wasn't woven into the city's bigger long-term development plans. So yeah, Erzurum's bid wasn't selected to move forward. But this isn't where the story ends. Not at all. In fact, it's a massive turning point because it forces us to ask a really important question. How should a city plan for the Olympics? And that brings us to the modern philosophy of Olympic legacy. This right here, this is the absolute key. It's a total mind shift. Legacy isn't some happy accident or a nice little bonus you get after hosting. No way. In today's Olympic world, legacy is the entire point. It's the foundation. The whole bid has to be built on it. The games are just the catalyst. They're not the end goal. But here's the thing. You can't just cross your fingers and hope for a great legacy. You've got to build it. You have to engineer it. And to do that, you need a strategic framework, a roadmap that connects the two-week spectacle of the games to the long-term health and success of the city. And here it is. This is the blueprint. It's called the Prus Schema, a model designed specifically to guide cities through this complex legacy planning. Now, don't get bogged down by all the boxes and arrows for a second. The big idea is that it gives you a structured way to take all that Olympic energy and money and channel it into specific, positive, and most importantly, lasting changes for the city. So the whole process starts with 3 big driving forces. First, and this is the most important one, you need a clear city vision that's already in place and just happens to align with what the Olympics can offer. Second, you've got the direct requirements, the stadiums and villages you have to build. And third are the leveraging factors. These are the smart political choices to use all that Olympic momentum to fund other projects the city desperately needs anyway. And when you get those inputs right, bam, the model shows you can create real, lasting change across these 6 key pillars. And it's not just the obvious stuff like new buildings and roads. It's also about those crucial intangible benefits, like new skills for your workforce, or a much stronger global reputation. And the whole point of all this planning, the ultimate goal, is to avoid this one thing, the thing that city planners have nightmares about, the white elephant. You know what I'm talking about. Those massive, super expensive stadiums built for 2 weeks of glory that then sit empty for decades, just draining public money. This blueprint is the antidote to that. Okay, so let's bring it all back to Erzurum. How can this blueprint help them build a new path forward? How can it turn the weaknesses from that 2026 bid into a smart, long-term strategy? This is a perfect example of what we're talking about. Remember the accommodation problem? The old plan was basically a temporary fix, use student dorms. But the new, legacy-focused strategy says, no, let's think bigger. Let's use the Olympic deadline as an excuse to build the permanent hotels and tourism infrastructure the city needs for its own economic future. See the difference? So with this new approach, the vision just gets so much bigger. It's not just about sports anymore. Not by a long shot. It's about using the games to kickstart the development of the entire region, improving infrastructure, creating jobs, boosting tourism, and even fast-tracking environmental goals. This is a vision the IOC can get behind because it's built to last. And what you end up with is a genuine partnership. The city uses the Olympics to achieve its own long-term goals, and in return, the Olympics get a host city that guarantees a positive, lasting impact. That strengthens the entire Olympic brand. It's the very definition of a win-win. Now, Erzurum's story isn't just about one city in Turkey. It holds a really powerful lesson for any city or nation dreaming of hosting a mega event, whether that's the Olympics, the World Cup, or a World Expo. And this quote right here, it just nails it. A mega event should be a tool you use to achieve your priorities, not something that dictates them from the outside. The event itself is temporary, right? But a city's needs are permanent. The smartest hosts don't change who they are to fit the event. They use the event to help them become who they want to be faster.
So, when you boil it all down, that's the real victory lap. Winning isn't about getting chosen to host. Winning is about having such a strong, clear vision for your own future that hosting a global event just becomes a logical, powerful, and incredibly effective tool to help you get there.
And that leaves us with one final thought, something for you to chew on. Think about your own town, your own city. If a massive global event were to come knocking, what would you want it to change for the better, long after all the crowds and cameras have gone home? What would be the real win for your community?